Hey guys, what's up? It is Mossy from Prey Gamer Academy here to talk about our player rankings for MSI 2021. It is May 6th as I am finishing up this video, so I wanted to record this little part just to, obviously you guys can see the VODs in the background, the highlights from some of these games should give us a little bit of perspective, and it will affect my rankings just a little bit because I've seen how some of these players match up, but that was pretty much all I wanted to say, so we can get into it. Okay, so we're just gonna go down the map. I want to start with top laners. Coming in as our number one top laner, I have Khan from Dom1 Gaming, Kia, or Dom1 Kia. I know they changed their name a little bit. He comes in at my, first top ranked top laner. Going off of his, if we're not even going to talk about his previous results in Worlds, how he balled out and whatnot, we can just look at the game that he played today against Cloud9. He, wins this Gnar GP matchup, balls out on the Gnar, finds this excellent pick off on Blabber. He looks like he's in solid form. He was able to take the first turret, and keep the lane shoved in as Gnar. I'm not a top lane player, so I can't comment on, which way that matchup's supposed to go, but he definitely won it. And obviously, he's laning against Fudge, an NA top laner. Definitely, if you think about superstar top laners, Fudge I don't think is in the conversation, but Fudge is, throughout the spring split, I think Fudge has been a mostly consistent player. He struggled a little bit at the top, at the start of the split, but regardless, the thing that I find interesting about Khan is that he plays safer champions, and he still, he helps his team. They don't play through top lane much. They don't give him, this jungle help and as much priority in general. And he still pretty much consistently balls out, which for me is why I'm able to put him at number one. Now coming in at number two, this could be a little controversial, but I have Armut. He's a young guy, he's a superstar top lane player, and I think whenever you have young players, this is going to be part of my reasoning for other players too, so I'll get into a little bit, but whenever you have, obviously, Armut has proved himself on an international stage before, clearly he's good, but whenever you have, young players where, they're in their prime, they're not afraid to, take these risks and stuff, it just makes me really excited to see. I would like to see him sort of step up in, a leadership role, which it can be kind of hard to tell whether or not he's doing that in-game, right? But, Mad are kind of a young team, but they're so talented. And I think given Armut's performance throughout the spring split, given, the notoriety that he has around him, the conversation around Armut, I think this tournament is so important. Not only for, for his team and for accomplishments, but also just for his career in general and for his confidence moving forward. On to the next player, I think I'm saying this correctly, Xiaohu from RNG. This dude is an excellent top laner, and the only reason that I have him at ranked at number 3 and not 2 or 1, is because RNG like to play through his lane more. They give him some kind of interesting picks. I was looking through his stats. I guess he's played games on Lucian and Syndra and Orianna, in the top lane, which is super shocking, but also totally cool. This guy is an excellent player, but obviously I think he gets more jungle help probably because of some of those unorthodox matchups. But this guy could easily be in the conversation for number one. And when you talk about this tournament in general, there are so many factors given, international events, you never know what is going to be brought to the table. So I could totally see this guy just balling out through the entirety of the tournament, and making me look silly for putting him at number 3. But regardless, that's just sort of how I'm feeling right now. Moving on to Hanabi from PSG. Saw them earlier. PSG didn't look particularly amazing. Really interesting about Hanabi is he's statistically he's the best top laner and actually one of the best laners in general in the PCS. Obviously I'm gonna put him over Fudge because Fudge is less of a star player and more just a consistent whatever. Oh, I guess that's spoiling the 5th one, but moving forward. he has, I think, 9 games on Gnar and 100% win rate over Spring, and then like 4 games on Renekton, um, and like also 100% win rate on that. So kind of nutty stats in general. He did very, very well as a top laner in his region. So I have to put him in at least number 4. And honestly, this guy could surprise us. So I think that there's arguments to be made that maybe he's even better than that ranking. And then obviously coming in at number 5, not a lot to talk about because I've already kind of mentioned him, but Fudge. Despite some issues with consistency earlier in the spring split, he has really pulled things together. So we'll move on to jungle. Okay, so starting with junglers, I have to put Canyon. I'm legally obligated to. Canyon, probably the best jungler in the world right now. Until the end of this tournament, you know, maybe we see something different. He balled out all season, and he balled out last Worlds. You know, he's a very good player. There's no doubt about that. We watched him play the Morgana in his first game against Cloud9. He stole that dragon. I think there's may have included the clip. I think it was like the first dragon of the game, and he was able to steal it, something like that. Regardless, just a small note there. Looks like he is in great form at the moment. Now, moving onwards, there's, you know, arguments to be made. Maybe number 2 is Elyoya, maybe it's Wei. I'm gonna say that it's Wei from RNG. He's probably the best, you know, like the second best jungler in the world right now. He looked really solid in game 1 on the Rumble. Apart from some very small mistakes, I need to see more from him, but clearly, like, he's just a super strong player. It's really hard to tell between him and Elyoya, like I said, for this spot, but his game 1 performance, like, really just gave me the push to go, okay, like, he's probably, you know, he's probably there for number 2. He looked just so strong on the Rumble in that game, and was very, very helpful in helping RNG to win. Moving forward to Elyoya, Elyoya also looked pretty great in his first game. Obviously, we saw some interesting tactics from River with his pathing, and if it was, you know, if the game was just between 2 junglers, maybe River ends up winning that one. But, you know, like, Elyoya looks so good on this Udyr, making plays happen for his team. He clearly understands how Mad wants to play the map. He can clearly communicate well with his teammates, and he, you know, like you can see on the board right now, like he's setting up these plays across the map, and that's a big, big part of being a jungler. So individual skill, you know, pathing, knowing how to play the matchups, that is all important, but one of the greatest strengths of jungler is just setting things up and communicating well with your teammates, which clearly Elyoya is capable of doing. So for that reason, I'm going to have him in at number 3. Moving forward, this is pretty debatable because I actually have Blabber over River. Blabber was a huge success in NA. The question is, you know, does it translate over to international events? I would like to rank him higher, but I'm unsure. He didn't look particularly good in his first match. He was on the Kindred. He had a couple decent ults, I think. But he looked a little bit out of his depth, maybe. So, like, I'm giving it to Blabber right now, this number 4 spot, but this is a very, very tight, it's a very difficult thing to rank. Moving forward to number 5 spot, it's going to be River. River's like this veteran jungle player. He has, as far as I know, a pretty decent fan following. You know, he's looked good at international events in the past, and I think he's had a very respectable career. I think he has the ability to do very well against any opponent. Like, I think he's a well-rounded player. I watched him play. I was watching some of his VODs from Worlds last year, and honestly, I think a lot of, like, this PSG team, like, I sort of feel like if they depend on River, like if they give him good matchups and draft accordingly, I think he can outskill a lot of players still. I know he is, you know, he's getting a little older, but he was making good moves in game 1. Like this game right here from Mad and PSG, to me at least, it just feels like Mad are more coordinated together as a unit. So I can't entirely put this on River. Regardless though, River, super, super strong player, and he's in at the number 5 spot. Alright, so moving on to mid laners, gonna try and make this a little bit shorter. Showmaker comes in at number 1 for me. Showmaker is the god, the legend. You know, he beating out players like Chobi and BDD. You know, in the LCK. I think he's clearly the best mid laner here. Now, this next one is really hard for me. So I have Perkson at number 2. There's there's maybe a debate that he should be at number 3. He started out the season kind of slow, and honestly, he probably looks better because NA mid laners are generally lower quality, so he should have I think he'll give any mid laner at Worlds like a tough time. He's still a very, very good player, but it's hard to accurately rank because of NA, so you know, maybe Cryan is better than him, or maybe Humanoid's better than him, but it's really hard. Moving on to Humanoid, he's going to come in at number 3 for me. Humanoid like has the potential to hard carry games. I've seen it. Like he's a great player for Mad Lions. However, I think he does have a consistency problem where he has like really high highs and like really low lows. So an interesting sort of player. You know, like that's why he comes in at number 3 and probably not higher. Moving on to Cryan though, I mean, there are going to be some people probably upset that I have him at number 4. Like, I think he's kind of similar to Jenkins in a way, which sounds like really, really weird, but hear me out. Like, he hasn't performed horribly, like, at all, but he hasn't had, like, a lot of games he's really carried. Like, he's been sort of just consistent and there for his team, which players like that are very valuable, but when you're talking about, like, the best players in the world, like, you need to be able to pop off and carry games. Moving down to our last player, I have Maple in there at number 5. Maple is also a very, very solid player, but he doesn't stack up as well compared to, I think, like all the rest of the competition in the mid lane. And mid lane is highly, highly competitive, so that's where mid laners are at. Moving on to ADCs, Gala comes in at number 1 for me. He is the like star, like the LPL, like he is this ADC god. Under him is Ghost. Ghost is a great, strong, like weak side ADC. He has the lowest gold share of any LCK ADC this season, but like the second highest KDA, most kills, which is insane. Karzi's gonna come in at number 3. He looked better in the finals, although he didn't like do amazingly during spring. But I think he's picking up his level of gameplay for Mad. Sven is at number 4 for ADCs. It's debatable whether he's the best carry in LCS, but he is very consistent. He is like not as unstable like some of these other players. Like Tactical would be a good example of unstable ADC with higher highs and lower lows. But yeah, Sven is very, very consistent, which is great in an ADC player. And then an honorable mention is BRTT Burt from Ping Gaming. Really keep your eye on this player. I'm excited for him. I think he's gonna give us some good games. Alright, now finally coming in at the end here, we can talk a little bit about the support matchups. These are really, really interesting, so we can go ahead and get into my rankings. Alright, so coming in at number 1 here, I have Beryl over Ming. Ming's in at number 2, but Beryl has done some really interesting things. I always like to rank players that can experiment like a little bit higher. I think looking back at his stats, I see he's played games on like Heimerdinger, and he also had like a Cho'Gath support game. So players that can experiment and make things happen like that are always like, I personally rate them just a little bit higher. Beryl is also obviously just like a super, super strong player, an integral piece of the Dom 1 bot lane, so for that reason, he's gonna come in at number 1 for me in terms of supports. That all being said, there is a very, very good reason that, like, if you were to put Ming, the support for RNG, as your number 1 support, I could totally understand that. He had an amazing spring split. I've seen a lot of clips of him with just some insane engages. You know, he's playing champs like the Rel and like Set. He did really, really well with Gala, like with his lane partner, so big part of that bot lane, and a super, super strong support player. Moving forward, I actually have Kaiser from Mad Lions in as the support. We saw an amazing stat from Kaiser. He actually had like an 80% kill participation during the Mad Lions series against Rogue, which is just crazy. You know, Kaiser didn't have like this this insanely consistent season so far with Carzy, but I will say that they have both like improved so much recently, especially during playoffs. So I think when you talk about international tournaments like this, like the ability to clutch up and improve your level of play is really important. So that's why I have him edging out Vulcan here. Then, of course, coming at number 4 is going to be Vulcan. Really consistent, actually great support player from NA. Deserves probably a little bit better ranking, but right under him is Kai Wing from PSG. So that is it for my rankings. Sorry I couldn't get in more in depth, but the video went a little longer than I thought. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and we will see you in the next one.
10 seconds, but I think Infinity have done it. They have the Baron buff. They have 4 members hitting on